beautiful is that? We totally know. It's really rude. I just want to say thank you so much for this amazing honour and award. When we're diagnosed with cancer, your world falls apart, and I'm sure a lot of you here have been in that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
And your world falls apart, and you fight it in whatever way you can, and you survive it in whatever way you can. And Ruth, when you got up to speak, it took me back nearly 10 years ago now, when I first fought cancer, and I listened to your story and I thought, gosh, I remember those moments. I remember shaving my head. I remember saying, please God, don't take my hair. But I was given 10 months to live nearly 11 years ago, and here I am receiving this award today. Precious and so wonderful, and the reason I was able to fight and stand was because the love and the support of my friends and my family, but the amazing, amazing doctors and nurses that work 24/7 to save my life and help me put it back together. So I'm going to receive it today with huge pride, but also on behalf of every doctor and nurse that fights cancer and helps us put our lives back together again. Thank you.
I'm delighted to say, can you still hear me? I'm delighted to say that Joe's going to stay on stage now, and Laura Kerby is going to join Joe in conversation. So Laura, would you come up, please? Thank you. Thank you.
So when I was asked to do this, it's an absolute honour and privilege. And to begin with, I was quite nervous that I was going to be interviewing Jo Malone, and then I read her book, and she moved iconically into a different piece of space. Her book is absolutely amazing. If you haven't read it, it is absolutely worth reading. It is extraordinary. It's very touching, it's very loving, it's really brutal and raw in places, and yet it roars like a lion often. So it is extraordinary in terms of inspirational women and how women can be so strong and so unbelievably able to survive. And we thank you so much for joining us in person to accept the award.
Thank you.
In terms of the award that Joe showed, just to let you know, Joe, we lost a cedar tree here in the storms last year, and this actually comes crafted and created from the cedar tree. So it comes from our heart. It comes with a little bit of Pennyground heart.
It's got passion, resilience and creativity etched into it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I think Alex has already said, which makes my life very easy just to start. And I wanted to really start at the beginning. We've been chatting over lunch, and you have this most extraordinary sense of smell. Superhuman, I would suggest. When did you realise that you had that?
Well, I thought everyone could smell like it. So I'm dyslexic, so I think that sometimes in life, when life takes away with one hand, it will give you back with armful somewhere else. And so so I can't tell my left from my right, and if I was ever in a car with you, driving, you'd see that. I can't swim, and I certainly can't drive a car, and my husband doesn't let me anywhere near the car. But I can smell. I can smell like no one else, and my nickname in the house is Bloodhound. My son says, Mum can, careful Dad, Mum will smell that.
And how has that shaped your life, having this amazing scent?
It's changed my life. It gave me a paintbrush in my hand to create and be the creative person that I want to be. And I built a little business from my kitchen with 4 plastic jugs. And so, there was nothing grand about Jo Malone in the beginning. It was 4 Peter Jones plastic jugs, plastic bottles, little pronto print labels, and amazing product that was in the... That was all that was. But my nose was like this sort of compass that would take me through the journey of life and help me to see that what I had was really amazing.
Fantastic. And we talk about inspirational women. Reading your book, there was plenty of inspirational... That's better. There was many inspirational women in your life and career. Would you like to tell us about a few of those?
There was, my first one was, actually I'm wearing fishnet tights today in honour of Madame Labate, because I met her when I was just 6, 7 years old, and my mum did faces, and Madame Labate was one of the great skin doyens of London, and I would go up as a little girl and I would sit in the laboratory with her, and she was 80 years old, she was 6'2", she was so beautiful, blonde hair, blood red lipstick, lab coat, and she'd speak like that, and she'd say, "Joe, if you can't do something brilliantly, don't bother at all." Fabulous woman. And she wore fishnet tights, so I wore them in honour of her. But she was the first one to teach me how to make a face cream. And she taught me the beauty of creativity, remembering things and doing everything with utter brilliance. So she was amazing. But all the way through my life, my mum was a hard-working woman who always tried to make ends meet. I never ever saw her one day with her feet up. She was always, incredibly hardworking. She taught me the love of cosmetics and the respect of it. Rosemary Bravo, she was the woman that refound Burberry. She found Christopher Bailey. If any of you wear any of Christopher Bailey, it's thanks to Rosemary Bravo, who's this amazing, amazing woman. She taught me retail. She taught me how to be a shopkeeper. So I've had incredible, both men and women, all the way through my life that have changed me.
And what made you write this? What made you put your story down into words?
I thought it was time. When I sold my business to Estee Lauder, everyone said, "That's the time to write a book." And I thought, yeah, that really is time to write a book, yeah, cool. And I don't know, I just didn't feel ready. I knew that when I wrote a book, I wanted to be truthful. So I wanted, you will see the cream and black box and all the great things that have happened to me, but I knew in my book I had to write about the things that were really difficult as well, and I wasn't prepared for that. And then after I fought cancer, that was a perfect time to sit and write a book, and I definitely wasn't ready to do that. And then when I came back and started a second business, I thought, right, now I'm going to write it. But I was in such a dark place personally that I knew that if I wanted to end this book and write this book, I needed to be standing on the mountainside looking out over everything yet again and this adventure. And so I'm standing on that mountainside now. It's time. So that's why I wrote the book.
And have you mentioned some of the difficulties and challenges? Just what were they for you for writing the book?
I'm dyslexic, so you can imagine that would have taken years and years and years. So I worked with a great friend of mine called Steve Dennis, who's known me for the last 10 years. And he was we called him my book husband, because I spent 10 hours a day with him. And we sat down and we went back to the apartment, because I own it today, where I built Joe Malone. And he lived there. And I would go there 10 hours a day, and I'd sit there at the computer and I would talk and he would write. And so there was, lots of challenges. And it's funny, when you write a book about your life story, all the memories come out jumbled. It doesn't come out in an ordered fashion. You don't go through childhood, teenage, and all the things. And I remember one night, and one of the questions had been, who was the first boy you kissed? I bet you all remember the first boy you kissed. And I couldn't remember the first boy I kissed. And then suddenly, in the middle of the night, I woke up and it was like, it's Gary Mackenzie. So they all come out all jumbled, all the memories. But one of the most wonderful things that happened was I had a difficult relationship with my mum and dad, and I fell in love with my mum and dad again. I mean, although they're passed away and they're gone now, I realised as a mum how hard that job is, actually, and I fell in love with my mum and dad again. So, right at the end, when I go up and I receive an award in Dubai, my first thought was my mum and dad as I went up.
And you've mentioned a little around your cancer, your breast cancer.
Yeah.
And you describe it in the book as a curveball in your perfect life, I think was how it's described.
Yeah, it really was.
So could you just share a little more about that?
I think it is always a curveball. And when you suddenly, so I was 38 years old, I had my first little boy, and I had suffered hyperemesis for 9.5 months. So I was 7 stone 2 when I had my son. I was really very poorly. And when he first popped out, I didn't want him either. It was like, whoa, you know, boy. And I read about that in the book as well. It didn't last for long. 24 hours later, I was literally in love with this little bundle. But it took me a few hours to find myself. So I went back to work. I was in New York City, and I could feel myself getting tighter and tighter every single day. And it was like, what is wrong with you? You know, come on. I was shooting a brochure with Christopher Baker, who's a brilliant photographer. And I went back to the hotel and I showered and I found this lump. It was right there on my breast, and it moved. And it was a bit like Ruth was describing, you know, that, what is that? You know, that shouldn't be there. And your first thought is cancer, and it's like, no, I'm 38. Women my age don't get breast cancer. Wrong, they do. And within a month, I'd gone to the doctor, I'd been to the hospital, and they thought it was a cyst. And I had the first few scans, and I could see by the doctors and the nurses' faces that it was very sinister. And that night they took me into the doctor's surgery and said to me, you have one of the most aggressive forms of breast cancer. We're going to do everything that we can, but you've probably got no more than a year to live. And that was that curveball, and it came out of nowhere. And suddenly, let me tell you, Lion Basil Mandarin didn't matter for a second. I couldn't care less about all of that. I thought, I'm never going to see my son grow up. I'm never going to see him go to school. I'm never going to see him get married. It was like, what am I going to do? And I realised, I came home that night from that moment, and I think when you're diagnosed with cancer, it feels like you have just been robbed of life and your future and your present, and all you have left are memories in your past. That is so not true. That is so not true. And you have to, pick up those threads and say, this is my life, and you are not going to tell me when I'm going to die. I'm going to tell you. And it was that mental mindset that I put in place, and went back. I picked up the phone. I spoke to the amazing Evelyn Lauder, who was Estee Lauder's daughter-in-law. And she set up the Pink Ribbon campaign. She was climbing a mountain, and I said to her, Evelyn, I have cancer, I'm going to die. And I never forget what she said. She went, not on my shift, honey. You make lemonade from lemons. And I proceeded for the next year. I went, I couldn't find anyone here in the UK that believed that I could survive, so I went to New York. And I went to the Sloan Kettering and was one of the first women to take chemo every 5 days for 10.5 months.
And how do you cope with that, with the treatment? How did you get yourself through that?
That was such a lovely moment, thank you. How do you, day by day, just how I get myself through life. Day by day, and the belief that, I remember the very first chemo I had, and it was with this amazing Russian chemo nurse, and she had huge diamonds in her ears, and I loved her, and she had enormous bosoms, absolutely, which I found, thank you, quite strange to, I don't know, I just found it quite amusing. And she became one of my dearest friends, Ina, her name was, and she was the only one that could get the needle in. And I went, how am I going to get through this, Ina? And she said to me, every single day, Joe, every single day, you will gain strength and you will come through this. And Ina was there on my very last chemo, and I went in, and the night I was diagnosed with cancer, I was going to a party. And I had my black tie suit and my diamonds in my pocket, and I never went to the party because of that terrible night. And my last day of chemo, I thought, right, life, I'm taking that day back. And I put my black suit on and my diamonds, and I went for my last chemo. And Ina was there, and she was so amazing. I think it's that mental strength, that real guts. I will survive. I don't care how bad it gets, I will survive. I was in intensive care every 10 days. My white neutrophils dropped to the floor every time they put something in me. I had surgery after surgery after surgery, and a bit like Ruth though, I had the best looking plastic surgeon. He was called Joseph Disa, and I nicknamed him Dishy because I loved him. He was so good looking, Italian American, and I said to him, Dishy, you've got to give me a great set. And I'm going to come through this, but that's what you've got to do for me. And he did. Sorry, boys. Humour, which is clearly what Ruth has in bag loads. Humour gets you through, doesn't it? You can't sit for like 10.5 months and cry every single day. It's exhausting. You lose your strength. And one of the stories that I love is I was on chemo, so I lost all my hair and everything else. And you just feel you feel like sort of like you're a mannequin. And everyone passes you in the street, and no one looks at you. You've lost something. And I went home one evening, and my husband, who's been my husband for 32 years, same one. And he said to me, "Put your present." And I opened it, and it was shampoo and conditioner. He looked at it, and I went, "Gary, I'm old." And do you know what? He hadn't done it as a joke. It hadn't occurred to him. It really hadn't occurred to him. And the shampoo and conditioner stayed on the mantelpiece for the whole of chemo. And then eventually when that brown curly poodle stuff comes back, I washed my hair for the first time in it. And so you have to find humour. It's okay to laugh at terrible things. It's okay to feel, and then you laugh and then you cry in the next breath. It's okay. You just get yourself through it in whatever way you can.
Yeah, I think we hear a lot of the joy and despair almost that we hear so much from the Penny-Brohn clients. It's a real sort of mixture, and it's interesting to watch how people take on the challenge of the cancer. Now, is it right that you lost your sense of smell during your treatment? 'Cause that must have been very scary for you, given what you do.
I was on adriamycin and cytoxin, which is even today, if someone gives me a cranberry juice, it kind of reminds me, because that's what it looks like. And it took my sense of smell, and all I could taste and all I could smell was methyl. That's all I could taste. And then they said to me that it would come back. By the end of my chemo, I was on all the Taxol, Taxotere, all of them in much smaller dosages, because my body was starting to break down. My hands were numb, my feet were numb, my neuropathy. And my sense of smell just didn't come back, and all I could taste and smell was pineapple. And I remember being in New York one day, walking down the street, and thought, right, that's it, I'm just going to make pineapple fragrance. That's what I can do, that's what I'm going to do. And then about 4 or 5 months into it, I was doing something, and suddenly I felt, I can smell that. And what's amazing now is my sense of smell is better than it ever was.
So I think Alex has already mentioned about the cell of Joe Malone.
Yes.
And if I may, I'm just going to read through your book, so it's relevant to my question. You talk about your cancer, and you say here, it's difficult to pinpoint how or why my feelings changed, but there's no doubt that coming through cancer changed my perspective. And we hear that over and over again here at Penny-Brohn. Did it have a bearing on why you decided to sell your business?
No, because I was diagnosed with cancer after I'd sold my business.
You sold your business.
So when I sold to Estee Lauder, I thought I was going to stay there forever.
Yeah.
And my perfect life. I was, and I think if I hadn't had cancer, I think I'd probably still be there.
Yeah.
Unless they would have thrown me out. I don't know. But I was in a position of huge strength and happiness. But cancer did change my perspective. I vowed always from day one that I wouldn't allow cancer to become my life story. I didn't want to be the cancer survivor, the cancer victim. I was only going to allow cancer to take one chapter of my life, and it really did. And it's one chapter in the book.
I recognise
It's
that.
not.
Absolutely.
I am not. I went through it. I came through the other end, and I so wanted my life back. And I want to be Joe. I'm going to get my life back. And I realised when I got to the end of it, it was never going to be the same again, because I was better. Yeah. I was better than I was before. So I was going to pick up those new threads of my life, and I would always have to respect cancer, as in have my tests, and I still do that twice a year, and I do everything I should. But no, it doesn't affect my life. It is a chapter of my life, and that's where it stays.
It's a closed book. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about Joe Love and how that's come about?
Yes. Yeah, you've got all paintbrushes in front of you. You're all thinking, why should you give me a paintbrush? That's a bit weird. I've put on here, thank you. Joe Loves is, after leaving the business and finding cancer, leaving the business, I then realised that first day I left Joe Malone and I went into Sloane Street and I was the last person to turn the key in the door, put all the bath bottles on the shelf, and I knew I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. And I'd signed the contract and it was done, and I was out, and the press release had gone. And I remember walking home thinking, what have I done? What have I done? What am I going to do now? And it's such a lesson in life, because you know what? We make mistakes. We make calls that aren't right. It doesn't mean to say that you can't turn it round and make it even better. But I had a 5-year lockout, so I was prevented from entering, rightly so, entering, I was, paid a lot of money. But in those 5 years, all I wanted to do was smell. All I wanted to do was make cosmetics. And when the 5 years was up, I was making a television show and I thought, I'm going to give it one more try and see if I can. And what I didn't realise was no one knew I left in the first place. And I spent 2 years working, drafting, wanting to quit. I'd go home every night and go to Gary, that's it, that's the last day, I'm not doing this anymore, that's it. And every morning I go, okay, I'm just going to do it one more day. And we're now 5 years on, this business is, and she's called Joe Loves because I love fragrance and it loves me and I don't really want to do anything else in life. So we're one little shop at the moment, but it's just about to enter into the Middle East, America, Australia, about to go around the world all over again and travel with Sarah, who's with me today as part of my team, travels around the world with me. And we're having an adventure, aren't we, Sarah? We're living the dream all over again.
And the brush?
Oh, the paintbrush. So Pomelo, the little bottle that you have here, the book is centred with Pomelo as well, because Pomelo, after not being able to smell for such a long time, I thought my sense of smell had gone completely, and it hadn't. And I was walking down a beach in the Turks and Caicos. We were having a family holiday, and I was walking down the beach one day, really miserable. And it was early one morning, and I thought, why can't I create fragrance again? Why can't I think of it? And as I was walking along the beach, there was a stingray, a baby stingray, and she was swimming exactly as I was walking. And I stopped, and it stopped and just fluttered in the water. And it swam all the way down the end of the beach with me and all the way back. And suddenly life went to me, Joe, creativity is as close as that stingray, and it wants to mimic what you're thinking, but you've just got to be aware of it. And I remember thinking, okay, so this is the moment. I'm standing here on my own along the beach, and I looked up and I captured everything I saw in a fragrant note, and it's pomelo. It's very citrus. It's the beach. It's sand dollars. It's fizzy water. It's flip-flops. It's really good-looking men doing something. And a paintbrush is, in my lifetime, I wanted once in my lifetime to change the habits of the way the world did something. And a paintbrush is going to be, instead of picking up a bottle and spraying yourself, you're going to pick up the bottle, take your paintbrush and paint your body as a canvas. And I think that's my moment to change the world.
So I have one last final question for you. That's what I'm being told. Which is, as well as your family, and I'm just going to read from it, you dedicate the book to every entrepreneur who each day takes one more step of courage and never gives up on their dream. For the entrepreneurs in the room, of which there will be some, what advice would you give them?
3 words. It's what the book ends in. It's passion. Have the passion of life and what you do, whether it's a product, a service. We've had the most amazing lunch, by the way, today. I've never had such a delicious lunch. Thank you. Do what you do with passion and with excellence. And Madame Labutti, do it brilliantly. Resilience. Tough times, well, you don't need me to tell you tough times, they're here. They're right here and they're going to get a lot tougher. But that resilience is a good thing, because fight teaches us business muscle, teaches us to think differently, approach things differently, collaborate in different ways, help each other in different ways, and the respect of creativity. So that I think those 3 things are vitally vitally important. But SMEs and small businesses, this is our time. The people that employ 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, some of you in this room will be global businesses of the future and will go on and employ thousands of people. But today you take one more step of courage towards your story and your dream, and you make it happen. And regardless who's in number 10, because I'm telling you, they're not doing the work, we've got to do it. Thank you.